What's up guys, Kurt Gibson here. Today I'm going to show you how to get a dump pass off on any mark. Okay, so first I'm going to talk about getting off a backhand dump pass off on a mark. Now in beginner level play, also if you're in the middle of the field, you're going to typically see more of a 45-degree marker. The offense is going this way, I'm on offense, Chris is marking me. He's standing at about a 45-degree angle. And so typically, if I'm going to throw upfield, he's trying to block anything to this side of the field. So if I pivot over to try to get a dump pass, it's pretty easy for me. Chris isn't really stopping that. Okay, so if he's at a 45, I pivot over, I've got plenty of space to throw. He's not putting a lot of pressure. Now on the sideline, typically you'll see this is the mark will start to rotate over. So sometimes you'll see the mark all the way around, but for right now we're going to see basically a flat mark. Really make Chris is trying to put pressure on an inside throw, and he's also trying to put pressure on a dump throw as well. So if Chris were to move over, right, so he's got a flat mark now. Usually you'll see this on the sideline again, or in more advanced levels of play. I'm pivoting basically straight on a plane. Chris pivots straight on a plane, and we're about the same height. And if he was a little bit taller, his arm would even be a little bit farther. He can really put a lot of pressure on that, especially if I happen to be a shorter thrower. So how do you get around that? How do you get a dump off if this marker is really putting that pressure on? So this is what you do. When you kind of can check in, you're looking at your dump, or you could do it from here, but if you're looking at your dump, instead of pivoting straight out, what you're gonna do is you're gonna pivot away from the marker, right? So I'm gonna pivot out here. I've now created almost 6 feet of space between the marker and myself. So now I can get off a throw, I can get off a short throw. You may lose a little bit more yards, right? If I throw from here and I'm able to get this quick pass off, I can get one off a little bit more upfield. Now if I pivot away from the thrower, I've pivoted now about 2 to 3 feet away from that plane that I was on. Now I have plenty of space. The only way for the marker to do that is to get really aggressive, but if he starts doing that and then you just try to do a normal pivot, you're going to draw a foul. Okay, so now we're going to look at a flick dump pass. How do you get off a flick against a tight mark? So we've essentially flipped the scenario. We're going to be going this way. Chris is going to be marking backhand. If he's at a 45-degree angle and I'm pivoting here, it's pretty easy for me to get off a pass in the dump space. But again, what happens if he's marking backhand and he's really putting pressure on that dump and he flips out here? This is going to be really hard to get it to put any type of touch on it. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing on the backhand side. He's starting to put pressure. I look to my dump. Okay, I'm here, he's putting pressure. Instead of pivoting out straight here and making this kind of a laser throw, I pivot back. I've pivoted away. I've just created about almost 5 feet of space, and now I can throw a nice soft pass out behind for the dump to catch. So another thing that I want to point out in the flick, a lot of especially newer players will pivot, and even if they pivot out a little bit, will want to throw kind of a laser throw. With this dump pass especially, you're going to want to think of a out and think throwing within your chest or even a little bit higher. You can get a nice soft flick off if you release it a little bit higher around kind of chest shoulder level than if you got low and try to get some zip on it. It's a lot easier to throw it inside out, which won't let that pass float. If I pivot out here and release higher, I can get that disc to float a little bit more, make it easier for your dump to make that catch. Okay, so just a pro tip to help make this easier to execute in games is start by practicing pivots as the thrower is practice pivoting on the plane that you're here. So if I'm pivoting here, and then come back to the flick side. Okay, flat. Come back to the backhand. Come back to the flick. Once you start making it easier to when you pivot, having that balance and having balance within the pivots, it'll make for the throw to have a lot less chance to be an errant throw. Right, so start on that plane. The next step would be to say, okay, now my pivot is gonna come out here and then come back here. So it's farther than 180 degrees, but you're coming out here and then back here. Practice that. Out here, and you don't need a marker to do this. You can practice this on your own. And then as you get more advanced, I know when I first started and I pivoted out here, I would try to come quick around here, and those usually ended up as flicks into the ground. So practice coming out here and then back here, because that will allow for a more consistent release, a little slower motion. And then as you get better, you can make this quicker round throw. All right, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you can use this to help your dump throws, getting them off against a good mark or a round mark. If you got any comments or questions, drop them in the comments section below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.